Hey everyone, tonight we are traveling deeper back in time than almost any story we have ever told. To an age before kingdoms, before writing, before metal or myth. A time when the world was ruled not by empires, but by cold. A time when fire did not yet belong to us. Imagine it, the world tens of thousands of years ago. The night was not just darkness, it was a presence. Vast, heavy, alive. The stars glimmered like distant ice. Trees swayed as if whispering warnings to the sleeping earth. And across endless plains of wind and shadow, early humans huddled together, shivering beneath animal skins, breath drifting into the cold like fragile ghosts. There were no hearths, no lamps, no sparks waiting to be struck. Only the moon offered light, and even that silver glow felt thin, too soft to keep the darkness away. In the forests, eyes gleamed, wolves prowling in hungry silence, big cats moving like shadows unbroken by sound, and creatures older still, watching from the edge of fireless night. Back then, humanity lived small, fragile, exposed. Every night felt like a test the world could erase them from. And then it happened. A storm. A tree split open by lightning. A violent crack that tore the silence apart. And on its fallen branches, flame. Red, living, impossible flame. At first, our ancestors stayed far away, trembling, filled with awe, too scared to approach. Even from a distance, the heat felt like a miracle. It pushed back the cold. It pushed back the dark. It pushed back fear. And finally, one trembling hand reached forward. One spark was taken from the burning tree. One tiny ember changed everything. Warmth, hope, light. That night, for the first time, the darkness did not win. Fire was no longer just something the sky delivered. It became a companion, a guardian, a reason to gather close and breathe together. It became the first heartbeat of home, of memory, of humanity itself. So before you settle in tonight, take a moment to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy these quiet journey through time and the soft echoes of the ancient world. And tell me, where are you listening from tonight? Maybe outside your window, the night still hums the way it once hummed outside the first cave fires. Now, close your eyes. Hear the crackle of ancient embers, the cold wind drifting just beyond the circle of light, and the breath of our earliest ancestors, warming their hands for the very first time. Let's begin the story of how fire became humanity's oldest friend. The long night before fire, the world without warmth. Before the flickering dance of flame, before the comforting glow of embers transformed the terrifying dark, there was only a profound, encompassing cold. The earth, in those distant, primeval eons, was an endless ocean of cold and darkness, a vast, indifferent expanse where humanity clung to a fragile existence, perpetually at the mercy of elements it could not tame. Night fell hard, not with a gentle descent, but with a brutal, swift plunge into absolute blackness, a suffocating void where only the distant, pale moon remembered what light truly looked like, its ethereal glow casting long, stark shadows that swallowed everything. Imagine the air, utterly frigid, sharp, and brutal, stealing your breath with every inhale, stinging any exposed skin with its icy bite. The sky above was a vast, unbroken expanse of inky black, studded with indifferent, glittering stars, or more often, obscured by heavy, gray clouds, pressing down with a suffocating weight. The sun, when it traversed the heavens, offered a fleeting, often inadequate warmth, its light quickly fading to reveal a landscape perpetually on the cusp of freezing. The ground beneath your bare feet, or crude hide coverings, was perpetually cold and damp, whether the moist earth of a dense forest floor, the unyielding stone of a rocky outcrop, or the chilling mud of a riverbank. It radiated a lethal chill upwards, seeping into your very bones, penetrating through layers of animal hide. Every step was a careful negotiation with the terrain, a battle against slipping on hidden ice or stumbling in the profound gloom. Listen to the overwhelming, oppressive silence of this world without warmth. The rustle of unseen leaves, the distant murmur of an unseen stream, the subtle creak of ancient trees. These were the only sounds, amplified by the pervasive quiet, each one infused with potential menace. No cheerful crackle of a fire, no contented hum of human voices gathered in light. Only the rhythmic beat of your own anxious heart, a solitary drum against the vast, terrifying stillness. Humanity, a small, vulnerable band, huddled together in temporary shelters, perhaps a shallow rock overhang or a crude lean-to of branches and leaves. These offered scant protection from the biting wind and the pervasive cold. Their only defense against freezing to death was their own collective body heat, their furs, and their desperate ingenuity in finding the most sheltered spots. The night stretched endlessly, vast and terrifying. Without fire, the darkness was absolute, profound, suffocating. It concealed not just familiar landmarks, but a myriad of dangers. Predators, masters of the night, roamed freely, colossal cave bears, swift cave lions, cunning wolves, their eyes gleaming in the black, their senses acutely tuned to the faint warmth of human life. The fear of being discovered, of being hunted, of being consumed by the absolute dark was a constant gnawing terror that denied any true rest. The moon, a pale, indifferent eye, was the only source of light against this overwhelming blackness. Its ethereal glow, when present, cast long, stark shadows across the landscape, transforming familiar forms into eerie, alien shapes. It illuminated a world of profound desolation, a silent testament to a cosmic order utterly indifferent to human suffering. The warmth that fed the world began to die. The very essence of life, sustained by the sun's energy, was constantly under threat. Plants withered quickly in the pervasive cold, food was scarce, and every ounce of human energy was consumed in the desperate battle to generate and retain precious body heat. Death by freezing was a pervasive, intimate reality, an insidious killer that crept in from the outside, silently claiming the weakest. Before flame, the earth was an ocean of cold and dark. Night fell hard, and only the moon remembered what light looked like. The world without warmth was the terrifying beginning of a forgotten age, a profound and horrifying reality that tested the endurance of every human breath. It was a quiet, reverent descent into a frozen world, charting humanity's earliest, desperate struggle for survival, where light was a memory and hope, a fragile, unspoken yearning in the profound, consuming darkness. Predators of the dark, in the cold, profound darkness that preceded fire. When night fell hard and swallowed all light, humanity clung to a fragile existence, perpetually at the mercy of a world it could not tame. This was a realm of pure terror, dominated by unseen hunters. Predators of the dark were everywhere. In the black forests, eyes gleamed, wolves, cats, and things older still. Humanity huddled together, a tiny, vulnerable spark, praying for a dawn that took too long to come, their every sense acutely attuned to the silent, lethal threats that stalked the endless night. Imagine the air, utterly frigid, sharp and brutal, stinging any exposed skin, thick with the earthy scent of damp earth, decaying leaves, and the subtle tang of human fear. The sounds were no longer the distant whisper of the wind. They included the low, rhythmic beat of your own anxious heart, the shallow breathing of huddled humans, and the terrifying, amplified silence that preceded an unseen approach. Moonlight, a pale, indifferent eye, cast long, stark shadows that seemed to conceal rather than illuminate, deepening the terror. The world outside their crude shelters, a shallow rock overhang, a dense thicket, was a vast, untamed wilderness, teeming with powerful, hungry beasts. These were the true masters of the night, their senses far surpassing human perception in the profound darkness. They moved with a stealth that defied the gloom, their forms swallowed by the absolute black, their predatory instincts honed by relentless hunger. Listen to the rhythmic beat of your own anxious heart, a solitary drum against the overwhelming stillness. Hear the sudden sharp snap of a twig in the black forest, too deliberate for a deer, too heavy for a small animal. See, or rather feel, the presence of unseen eyes, gleaming at the very edge of the impenetrable darkness, reflecting the distant, pale moonlight or the subtle glint of a passing cloud. Wolves, swift and cunning, often moving in packs, or a constant, terrifying threat. Their keen senses of smell and hearing allowed them to track prey over vast distances, and their coordinated hunting strategies made them incredibly dangerous. Their howls, if they dared to sound, were a chilling declaration of intent, freezing human hearts, a prelude to a brutal, desperate struggle. But there were things older still. Massive cave lions, formidable and silent, their immense paws padding softly across the frozen earth, their golden eyes fixed on the vulnerable human cluster. Terrifying cave bears, with their immense strength and unpredictable temperaments, driven by hunger, could charge with terrifying speed. These were not distant creatures of legend. They were real, palpable threats, each capable of inflicting swift, brutal death. Humanity huddled together, a small, fragile group, their only defense their collective body heat, their furs, and their desperate ingenuity in finding the most defensible spots. They lacked fire, their most potent weapon against the night. Their crude spears, tipped with sharpened flint or bone, felt tragically insufficient against the overwhelming power of such beasts in the dark. The fear of discovery, of being hunted, of being consumed by the absolute dark, was a constant knowing terror that denied any true rest. Every shadow, every subtle shift in the wind, every moment of heightened silence was interpreted through the lens of potential attack, praying for dawn that took too long to come. The night stretched endlessly, vast and terrifying, each minute amplified by the fear of the unseen. The coming of the sun was their only hope, a desperate yearning for the return of light that promised, however briefly, a reprieve from the constant lethal threat. In the black forests, eyes gleamed, wolves, cats, and things older still. Predators of the dark were the terrifying reality of the winter that nearly erased humanity, a profound and horrifying testament to the desperate struggle for survival. It was a quiet, reverent descent into a frozen world, charting the earliest desperate struggle for existence, where fear was omnipresent, and the faint echo of survival was whispered through millennia, forever tethered to the primal terror of a night without human light. Lightning and fear. In the cold, profound darkness that preceded fire, when night was a terrifying realm of unseen predators and human vulnerability, the forces of nature were wielded by unseen, capricious powers. Then, from the vast, indifferent sky, a violent miracle would sometimes descend. Lightning and fear. The first fire came from the sky, a searing, brilliant strike that ignited branches, transforming dry timber into a roaring inferno. Early humans watched in awe and terror, too afraid to approach, witnessing a raw, untamed power that was both life-giving and utterly destructive, inspiring both reverence and paralyzing dread. Imagine the air, utterly frigid, sharp and brutal, stinging any exposed skin, thick with the earthy scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, now mingled with the acrid, terrifying smell of burning wood. The sounds were no longer just the distant howl of a wolf. They included the deafening crack of thunder, the terrifying hiss and roar of a blazing inferno, and the desperate cries of humans caught between fear and wonder. Moonlight, a pale, indifferent eye, was momentarily eclipsed by the blinding, destructive flash of lightning. In a world perpetually plunged into darkness after sunset, a world where warmth was a constant, desperate battle, the phenomenon of natural fire was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Lightning strikes, ignited by violent storms, would occasionally set dry forests or grassy plains ablaze. These were not controlled blazes, but immense, untamed infernos, consuming everything in their path. Listen to the deafening crack of thunder, shaking the very earth, followed by the terrifying roar of the blazing inferno, its flames leaping high into the black sky, casting immense, dancing shadows that stretched for miles. Hear the frantic cries of animals fleeing the conflagration, their panic adding to the overwhelming chaos. See the towering columns of smoke, black against the stormy sky, illuminated by the orange glow of the unstoppable fire. A terrifying beacon of raw power. The first fire came from the sky, a violent miracle. Early humans, huddled in their precarious shelters, would witness these immense blazes from a distance, their faces etched with a mixture of awe and profound terror. The raw, destructive power of the flames was undeniable. It consumed trees, killed animals, and ravaged the landscape, striking indiscriminately. Too afraid to approach, they were held captive by its terrifying beauty. The intense heat, the blinding light, the sheer, untamed ferocity of the fire, these were overwhelming forces that inspired paralyzing dread. To approach such a blaze, to attempt to control it, felt like an act of unimaginable temerity, a direct challenge to the capricious powers that wielded lightning. Yet, even through the terror, there was a profound fascination. The fire provided warmth, pushing back the cold. It offered light, piercing the absolute darkness. It deterred predators, its roar and glow frightening away even the largest beasts. It was a source of power, a tool for survival, tantalizingly out of reach. The memory of these lightning-struck fires became ingrained in their collective consciousness, shaping their myths, their fears, and their desperate longing. It was a divine gift, violently delivered, hinting at a transformative power that could forever alter their precarious existence. Branches burned, and early humans watched in awe and terror, too afraid to approach. Lightning and fear were the terrifying, glorious beginning of the winter that nearly erased humanity, a profound and horrifying testament to the desperate struggle for survival. It was a quiet, reverent descent into a frozen world, charting the earliest, desperate struggle for existence, where fire was a divine, destructive force, and the faint echo of survival was whispered through millennia, forever tethered to the primal terror and awe of a world before human mastery of flame. The first touch of flame, after countless nights of terrifying darkness and bone-chilling cold, after witnessing the awe-inspiring yet destructive power of lightning-struck fires, a pivotal moment arrived that would forever redefine humanity's place in the frozen world. The first touch of flame was a deliberate, audacious act of courage and ingenuity. A single spark taken from a dying tree changed everything. Warmth, a sensation long craved, spread through trembling hands, and the pervasive shadows retreated for the first time, marking the dawn of human mastery over the elements and the true beginning of survival. Imagine the air, utterly frigid, sharp and brutal, yet now mingled with the faint, sweet scent of smoldering wood, a revolutionary aroma that spoke of promise. The sounds were no longer just the distant roar of a forest fire. They included the hushed murmurs of profound discovery, the soft crackle of a tiny, controlled flame, and the gentle breathing of humans drawn close, their faces etched with awe. Moonlight, a pale, indifferent eye, illuminated a single, flickering beacon of human defiance. The opportunity came, perhaps, after a natural fire had swept through a patch of forest, leaving behind smoldering logs and dying embers. Early humans, driven by their desperate need for warmth and protection, but remembering their profound fear of the untamed blaze, would approach with extreme caution. One brave, perhaps desperate, individual would dare the unthinkable. Listen to the rhythmic beat of your own anxious heart, thumping against your ribs, as a hand, trembling but resolute, reached out towards a dying, smoldering branch. Hear the sharp intake of breath from the gathered group, their eyes wide with a mixture of terror and desperate hope. See the figure, his face grimly focused, gingerly gathering a single glowing ember, a fragile, incandescent seed of warmth, wrapped in dry leaves or a piece of bark. A single spark taken from a dying tree changed everything. This was the moment of profound transformation. The precious ember, carried back to the safety of their crude shelter, would be meticulously nurtured. Dry tinder, painstakingly gathered and preserved, would be carefully arranged. With slow, measured breaths, the firemaker would blow gently on the glowing spark, feeding it with the very breath of life, willing it to grow. The ember would glow brighter, deepening to an orange blush, then sending a tiny tendril of smoke curling upwards. And then, a flicker. A tentative orange flame, small and vulnerable, would lick at the dry tinder, growing slowly, hesitantly. The smell of burning wood, sharp and clean, would begin to permeate the icy air, pushing back the stale scents of the night, asserting its profound presence. Warmth spread through trembling hands. The immediate, visceral sensation of heat, radiating outwards from the nascent flame, was overwhelming. Hands numbed by the cold would be held out, absorbing the gentle caress of the heat, slowly thawing frozen fingers. Bodies, stiff and shivering, would visibly relax, a collective sigh of profound relief rippling through the group, and the shadows retreated for the first time. The flickering light, however small, pushed back the oppressive darkness that had defined their existence. Predators, masters of the night, would hesitate, wary of the strange, dancing glow. The terrifying unknown, which had lurked in every shadow, was momentarily banished, replaced by a fragile but profoundly reassuring circle of human light. A single spark, taken from a dying tree, changed everything. Warmth spread through trembling hands, and the shadows retreated for the first time. The first touch of flame was the terrifying, glorious beginning of the winter that nearly erased humanity, a profound and horrifying testament to the desperate struggle for survival. It was a quiet, reverent descent into a frozen world, charting the earliest audacious sparks of human ingenuity, where fire became their first friend, and the long war between cold and warmth had truly begun. The night that did not win, with the precious spark of fire now safely cradled within their crude shelter, its flames dancing defiantly against the encompassing gloom. Humanity experienced a revelation. The cold, profound darkness that had for so long been an unassailable enemy now met its match. The night that did not win was a pivotal moment in human history. That night, they did not run from the dark. They sat beside their new god, and the long, brutal war between cold and warmth had truly begun, transforming their very existence, imbuing them with a newfound power that would ultimately ensure their survival. Imagine the air inside the shelter, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the earthy scent of damp stone, animal hides, and the subtle tang of human presence, now permeated by the profound warmth of the fire. The sounds were no longer the terrifying cries of predators. They included the rhythmic crackle and pop of burning wood, the hushed murmurs of awe, and the gentle breathing of humans drawn close, their faces etched with wonder and relief. Flickering fire against cavern walls cast dancing shadows, illuminating a scene of quiet yet profound triumph. After the arduous, dangerous act of claiming fire from a natural source, the small band huddled around their nascent blaze. The flames, though small, radiated a warmth that was utterly miraculous, pushing back the biting cold that had defined their existence. Bodies, stiff and shivering for countless nights, now visibly relaxed, absorbing the gentle caress of the heat. Hands, numbed by the cold, were held out to the flames, slowly thawing, feeling the profound relief of warmth permeating their very bones. Listen to the low, rhythmic crackle of the fire, a constant, comforting symphony against the profound silence of the frozen night. Hear the soft murmurs of amazement, of reverence, as humans gazed upon their new, powerful ally. See the dancing flames, their orange and red hues pushing back the oppressive darkness, illuminating the cave walls, transforming rough stone into a canvas of shifting, playful shadows, no longer menacing. That night, they did not run from the dark. For the first time, humanity could confront the terrifying blackness, not with flight, but with defiance. The fire created a clear, bright circle of light, a safe haven within the vast, hostile void. Predators, which had for so long ruled the night, would hesitate, their instincts warning them away from the strange, dancing glow, from the acrid smell of smoke. The balance of power had subtly, profoundly shifted. They sat beside their new god. Fire in its untamed power, its ability to both destroy and give life, was seen as a divine force, a sacred gift from the cosmos. It was treated with profound reverence, its flame carefully guarded, its needs meticulously attended to. It became the central focus of their spiritual life, an object of worship, a constant source of awe and gratitude. And the long war between cold and warmth had begun. This was not a physical war of spears and clubs, but a profound existential struggle. With fire, humanity now possessed a tool to actively fight the cold, to transform their environment, to extend their hours of activity, to cook their food, to protect their vulnerable young. It was the first step on a long, arduous journey that would eventually lead to civilization itself. That night, they did not run from the dark. They sat beside their new god, and the long war between cold and warmth had begun. The night that didn't win was the terrifying, glorious culmination of the early age, a profound and horrifying testament to the desperate struggle for survival. It was a quiet, reverent descent into a frozen world, charting the earliest, audacious sparks of human ingenuity, where fire became their first friend, and the faint echo of survival was whispered through millennia, forever tethered to the life-giving warmth of their enduring, unyielding spirit. The age of firekeepers, guardians of the flame. With fire now firmly established as humanity's ultimate defense against the lethal cold and profound darkness of the Ice Age, its precious flame could never be left to chance. It was far too vital, far too fragile, to be a casual presence. Guardians of the flame became an essential, sacred role. Fire was fragile. If it went out, death followed. Whole families took turns watching, feeding and whispering to it like a living spirit, their unwavering vigilance a quiet, profound ritual, ensuring the fragile spark of life endured. A silent testament to their critical importance in the long war between cold and warmth. Imagine the air inside the cave, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the earthy scent of damp stone, animal hides, and the subtle tang of human presence. The sounds were no longer the simple crackle of a thriving fire. They included the soft crackle of dwindling embers, the anxious whispers of the firekeeper, and the profound, almost eerie silence of a hearth fighting for life. Embers glowing like eyes in the ashes, kept alive by the silent, watchful attention of its keeper, became the heart of their world. The role of firekeeper, often an elder whose hunting days were waning, or a particularly reliable and patient individual, bore an immense, terrifying responsibility. Their duty was paramount, to carefully manage the dwindling fuel, to ensure that the precious embers did not die entirely, to nurture the fragile spark through the longest, coldest hours of the night. This was not a passive role, but an active, ceaseless vigil, the most crucial battle against the night's lethal embrace. Listen to the soft, rhythmic breathing of the hearth's keeper, their body hunched close to the fire pit, wrapped in thick furs, their eyes burning with fatigue, yet fixed on the embers. Hear the gentle scrape of a crude stick against cold ash, seeking the glowing heart, carefully adding the smallest, driest twigs, coaxing a brief, desperate flare of light and warmth. Each such act was a small, vital battle against the encroaching darkness and the lethal cold. Fire was fragile. If it went out, death followed. The cold was insidious, an enemy that knew no surrender. It permeated the cave, testing the keepers' endurance, tempting them with the seductive lure of sleep. They would shiver, huddle deeper into their furs, but their gaze remained fixed, unwavering. They understood the profound consequences of failure, the rapid onset of hypothermia for the sleeping group, the heightened danger from predators who feared no dark, the extinguishing of the tribe's very lifeline. Whole families took turns watching, feeding, and whispering to it like a living spirit. The responsibility was often shared, a collective burden that underscored fire's vital importance. The act of tending the fire became a sacred dialogue, a profound spiritual connection to their new god. They would whisper encouragement to the flames, offer small pieces of precious fat as a gift, ensuring its continued vibrancy. This vigil was both physically demanding and psychologically taxing. Hours stretched into what felt like an eternity, the passage of time marked only by the slow diminution of the embers and the increasing intensity of the cold. The keeper fought against boredom, against the seductive pull of exhaustion, keeping their mind alert, constantly aware of the profound responsibility they bore. The other members of the family, though sleeping, implicitly trusted the hearth's keeper. Their rest, however shallow, was dependent on this unwavering vigilance. The rhythmic crackle of the dwindling fire, the soft sounds of its tending, were reassuring anchors in the terrifying darkness. Fire was fragile. If it went out, death followed. Whole families took turns watching, feeding, and whispering to it like a living spirit. Guardians of the flame were a pervasive, fundamental aspect of the age of firekeepers, transforming their raw ingenuity into the very means of defying a lethal environment. It was a quiet, reverent drift through flickering firelight and echoing caves, charting the ancient art of survival and enduring countless nights under vast, frozen skies, forever tethered to the enduring, life-giving flame, ensuring the torch of life was passed to another dawn, a profound secret of how cavemen had the warmest sleep. Smoke in the caves, with fire now safely cradled in its stone pit, pushing back the lethal cold and overwhelming darkness. A new pervasive element infused the air within the Ice Age cave. Smoke in the caves was an inescapable reality. Smoke coiled and clung to ceilings, blackening the stone like ancient signatures, painting the first memories on walls, indelible proof that warmth had a voice, a physical manifestation of human presence, a profound if challenging balance between the desperate need for heat and the struggle for clean air, embodying the quiet ingenuity of early humans. Imagine the air inside the cave, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the earthy scent of damp stone, animal hides, and the subtle tang of human presence, now permeated by a palpable haze. The sounds were no longer just the soft crackle of a dwindling fire. They included the gentle breathing of a family huddled close, the low rhythmic coughs of humans and animals alike, and the profound, almost eerie silence that defined the deep middle of the night. Embers glowing like eyes in the ashes, their light diffused by the constant gray plume. The fire, carefully built within its stone pit and kept low to conserve precious fuel, was the heart of the cave. Its warmth was absolutely essential for survival. But caves rarely possessed efficient chimneys or ventilation systems. Smoke, rather than rising cleanly, would drift lazily upwards, often clinging to the ceiling, slowly filling the upper reaches of the cave, before gradually seeping out through the mouth or through cracks and crevices. Listen to the soft, rhythmic breathing of your family, their snores, the occasional cough that echoed in the smoky air. Hear the subtle movements of the furs, the rustle of hides as bodies shifted. See the thick haze, illuminated by the flickering firelight, creating a veiled ethereal atmosphere where familiar faces became indistinct, almost ghostly. In the depths of stone shelters, smoke coiled and clung to ceilings, painting the first memories on walls. Over centuries, the persistent smoke from countless fires left an indelible mark on the cave ceilings and upper walls, a deep, lustrous black patina, forming complex, abstract patterns. These were the unintended signatures of human presence, a testament to generations living and surviving within these stone shelters, their lives intrinsically linked to the smoke, marking the very rock itself with proof that warmth had a voice. Humans slept in circles, their breath rising as one, mingling with the thick, acrid haze, creating a steaming, pungent pocket of life, a humid, enclosed atmosphere. This was a profound, if uncomfortable, balance where the air itself was a shared, communal resource and a constant challenge to their lungs. The irritation it caused stinging eyes, persistent coughs, was the unavoidable price of warmth. Yet paradoxically, the smoke also offered a perverse comfort and a perceived protection. It was a visible sign of the fire's presence, and thus of warmth. Its lingering presence meant the cold had not entirely won. It was also believed to deter insects, and by some accounts, even malevolent spirits, its pungent aroma forming an ethereal barrier against unseen forces. The increased humidity from collective breath and smoke also helped to keep frost from forming on the cold stone walls, a subtle, life-saving benefit. In the depths of stone shelters, smoke coiled and clung to ceilings, painting the first memories on walls, proof that warmth had a voice. Smoke in the caves was a pervasive, fundamental reality of the forgotten age, transforming their raw ingenuity into the very means of defying a lethal environment. It was a quiet, reverent drift through flickering firelight and echoing caves, charting the ancient art of survival and enduring countless nights under vast, frozen skies, forever tethered to the enduring, smoky breath of their shared life, a profound secret of how cavemen had the warmest sleep. The first hearths, with fire now established as humanity's ultimate defense against the lethal cold of the Ice Age, its precious flames needed not only careful tending, but deliberate containment. The very act of shaping their environment to control this sacred power led to one of humanity's most profound architectural innovations, the first hearths. Rings of stone appeared, not just to hold flame, but to center life itself, the birthplace of the home, the tribe, the circle, transforming a dangerous element into the very heart of human community, a silent testament to ancient ingenuity and the dawn of human warmth. Imagine the air inside the cave, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the earthy scent of damp stone, animal hides, and the subtle tang of human presence. The sounds were no longer the simple crackle of an open fire. They included the rhythmic pop of burning logs, the gentle hiss of melting snow near the carefully arranged stones, and the hushed murmurs of a family gathered close. Embers glowing like eyes in the ashes, contained within their carefully built ring, became the pulsating heart of their world. The first hearths were deceptively simple, yet profoundly effective. They consisted of a ring of stones, carefully selected for their size, shape, and heat-retaining properties, arranged in a circular or oval pattern on the cave floor, or in the center of a temporary shelter. These stones served multiple vital functions, transforming a raw flame into a controlled, life-sustaining entity. Listen to the rhythmic crackle and pop of the burning wood, a constant, comforting symphony, its heat directed outwards by the encircling stones, pushing back the pervasive cold. Hear the contented sizzle of fresh meat roasting over the flames, its rich, savory aroma filling the cave, promising strength and sustenance. See the dancing flames, their orange and red hues pushing back the encroaching darkness, illuminating the cave walls, the heart of the hearth a bright, defiant beacon. Firstly, the stones contained the fire, preventing it from spreading uncontrollably, a crucial safety measure in a shelter lined with dry furs and tinder. They also radiated heat outwards, acting as a thermal battery, slowly releasing absorbed warmth even after the flames died down, providing a more consistent, lingering heat than the fire alone. This was a sophisticated understanding of heat transfer. Secondly, and perhaps most profoundly, the hearth became the undisputed center of human life. It was around this ring of stones that families gathered, cooked, ate, told stories, crafted tools, and slept. It was the birthplace of the home, transforming the impersonal vastness of the cave into a defined human space. It was the nucleus of the tribe, the focal point for communal bonding, for shared warmth, for collective survival. The circle itself, the shape of the hearth, was deeply symbolic. It represented unity, protection, the unbroken bond of the family and tribe against the hostile world. The human huddle around it, their bodies forming a larger, living circle, reinforced this profound sense of connection. The creation and maintenance of these hearths was a communal effort, a fundamental skill passed down through generations. Stones would be painstakingly gathered, shaped, and arranged. Their placement was a craft, ensuring optimal heat retention and fire control. Rings of stone appeared, not just to hold flame, but to center life itself, the birthplace of the home, the tribe, the circle. The first hearths were a pervasive, fundamental aspect of the age of firekeepers, transforming their raw ingenuity into the very means of defying a lethal environment. It was a quiet, reverent drift through flickering firelight and echoing caves, charting the ancient art of survival and enduring countless nights under vast, frozen skies, forever tethered to the enduring, life-giving heart of the controlled flame, a profound secret of how cavemen had the warmest sleep. The taste of cooked meat, with fire now tamed and contained within its stone hearth, pushing back the Ice Age cold and darkness, humanity unlocked a revolutionary power far beyond mere warmth. This was the transformation of food, epitomized by the taste of cooked meat. When flame touched flesh, it transformed more than food. It softened survival, making bodies stronger, nights longer, and thoughts sharper, profoundly altering human biology and behavior, igniting the very spark of civilization, a silent testament to fire's transformative power. Imagine the air inside the cave, thick with the rich, savory aroma of roasting meat, mingled with the pungent smell of wood smoke, damp stone, and the subtle tang of human presence. The sounds were no longer the simple crackle of fire or the grinding of raw teeth. They included the contented sizzle of cooking flesh, the focused chewing of tenderized fibers, and the hushed murmurs of a family finding profound satisfaction. Embers glowing like eyes in the ashes illuminated faces, softened by nourishment and newfound strength. Before fire, raw meat was tough, difficult to chew, and offered limited digestibility. Much of its nutritional value was lost, and it carried the risk of parasites. The time and energy expended on chewing and digesting raw food was immense, a constant drain on precious calories. Listen to the contented sizzle of fat dripping into the fire, the rich, savory aroma filling the cave, making hungry bellies ache with anticipation. Hear the sounds of chewing, now less laborious, as tenderized meat was consumed with greater ease. See the dark, glistening flesh, hot from the fire, being passed from hand to hand. Each piece a tangible representation of a successful hunt, a momentary victory against the ever-present hunger. When flame touched flesh, it transformed more than food. Cooking dramatically increased the digestibility and bioavailability of nutrients in meat. It broke down tough fibers, making food easier to chew and swallow, particularly beneficial for the young and the old. This meant more energy could be extracted from each meal, with less expenditure of precious energy on digestion. It softened survival. Bodies became stronger. With a more efficient and nutritious diet, human bodies grew larger, healthier, and more robust. Less energy wasted on digestion meant more energy available for hunting, for building, for brain development. This dietary revolution is believed to be a crucial factor in the evolution of the larger human brain, making thoughts sharper, intelligence growing. Nights became longer. Cooked meat provided sustained energy and allowed for more efficient heat generation. Humans could survive longer periods of cold, and the time spent gathering food could be more productive. The extended periods of rest, even shallow rest, fueled by nutrient-rich food, contributed to overall resilience. The psychological impact was profound. The pleasure of a warm cooked meal was immense, a source of comfort and satisfaction in a brutal world. It fostered communal bonding, transforming the evening meal into a social ritual around the hearth, strengthening tribal ties and sharing narratives. The taste of cooked meat was a pervasive, fundamental aspect of the age of firekeepers, transforming their raw ingenuity into the very means of defying a lethal environment. It was a quiet, reverent drift through flickering firelight and echoing caves, charting the ancient art of survival and enduring countless nights under vast, frozen skies forever tethered to the life-giving nourishment of their transformed diet. A profound secret of how cavemen had the warmest sleep. The language of sparks, with fire now firmly cradled in its hearth, warming bodies and cooking meat. Humanity unlocked a new, profound capacity beyond mere physical survival. The flickering flames, the dancing shadows, the shared warmth, these elements created a unique environment for the human mind to flourish. The language of sparks was a silent, profound ritual. They began to talk around the fire, to tell, remember, and imagine. Fire didn't just warm. It awakened the mind, igniting not just logs, but the very spark of abstract thought, complex communication, and the dawn of collective memory, fundamentally reshaping human consciousness. Imagine the air inside the cave, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the earthy scent of damp stone, animal hides, and the subtle tang of human presence. The sounds were no longer the frantic buzz of raw survival. They included the low murmur of human voices, the soft crackle of a dwindling fire, and the gentle breathing of a family gathered close. Embers glowing like eyes in the ashes, their light diffusing across faces, illuminated a world where thought itself was transforming. Before fire, human communication was likely rudimentary, limited to immediate needs and concrete observations. The absence of sustained light and warmth, the constant threat of predators, and the immense energy required for sheer survival left little room for abstract thought or elaborate narrative. Listen to the low, rhythmic murmur of voices around the campfire, weaving together sounds and meanings into complex sentences. Hear the soft gasps of children, their eyes wide and fixed on the dancing shadows, their small imaginations populated by the images conjured by the storyteller. See the subtle gestures, the hand movements, the shared glances complementing the spoken word, creating a rich tapestry of communication. They began to talk around the fire. The extended hours of light and warmth provided by the fire, particularly in the long, dark nights of the Ice Age, created an unprecedented opportunity for sustained, complex communication. No longer solely focused on immediate danger, the human mind could expand, connect, articulate, to tell the stories of the day's hunt, the dangers encountered, the foraging successes. These narratives were more than just factual reports. They became structured tales, imbued with emotion, description, and insight. To remember the ancestral lore, the migration routes, the habits of animals, the wisdom of past winters. Fire provided the consistent environment for the transmission and collective reinforcement of knowledge, building a shared history. And to imagine the possibilities of future hunts, the strategies for building better shelters, the abstract concepts of spirits and gods, the complexities of social bonds. Fire didn't just warm. It awakened the mind, sparking abstract thought, creative problem-solving, and the development of more sophisticated language. The very act of sharing a story, of creating a collective imaginative world, strengthened the bonds of the tribe. The flickering firelight, casting its dancing shadows on the cave walls, became an integral part of this new language. A hand, held just so, could cast the shadow of a leaping animal, illustrating a point. The movement of the flames themselves could mimic a battle, a chase, a gathering of spirits, adding a visual dimension to the oral traditions. Fire didn't just warm, it awakened the mind. The language of sparks was a pervasive, fundamental aspect of the age of firekeepers, transforming their raw ingenuity into the very means of defying a lethal environment. It was a quiet, reverent drift through flickering firelight and echoing caves, charting the ancient art of survival and enduring countless nights under vast, frozen skies, forever tethered to the life-giving warmth of their shared narratives. A profound secret of how fire awakened the human mind and led to civilization. Fire, faith, and fear. The fire that spoke in the age of firekeepers. After humanity had wrestled the precious flame from the sky and harnessed it within their hearts, fire became far more than a mere tool. In a world deeply intertwined with spiritual belief, where the unseen realms permeated every aspect of existence, fire transcended the physical. The fire that spoke was a profound ancient belief. They believed the flames listened, that every crackle and hiss was a message from the unseen world beyond the dark. A direct communication from spirits, gods, or ancestors, shaping their fears, guiding their decisions, and profoundly influencing their understanding of the cosmos. Imagine the air inside the cave, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the earthy scent of damp stone, animal hides, and the subtle tang of human presence, now permeated by a palpable sense of reverence and deep listening. The sounds were no longer the simple crackle of a mundane fire. They included the rhythmic pop of burning wood, a gentle hiss of sap, and the hushed murmurs of humans straining to interpret the fire's voice. Embers glowing like eyes in the ashes seemed to watch, to listen, to speak in their own ancient tongue. The fire, carefully tended within its stone pit, was the undisputed center of human life. It cooked their food, warmed their bodies, and illuminated their nights. But it was also seen as a living entity, imbued with a powerful spirit, a direct connection to the divine. Its unpredictable nature, its capacity to roar into life or dwindle to nothing, its constant movement reinforced this perception of sentience and power. Listen to the rhythmic crackle and pop of the burning wood, a constant, comforting symphony, now heard with heightened attention. Hear the sharp hiss as a piece of damp wood was added, the soft roar as the flames surged, the gentle sigh as they settled. These were not random sounds. They were perceived as messages, as warnings, as pronouncements from the unseen world. They believed the flames listened, and every crackle and hiss was a message from the unseen world beyond the dark. A sudden, unexpected flare-up might be interpreted as a sign of approval from an ancestor spirit, a blessing for the coming hunt. A sudden, inexplicable dimming, despite careful tending, could be a warning of impending danger, a bad omen, or a sign of divine displeasure. The direction of the smoke, the patterns of the sparks, the way the fire consumed certain woods, all were carefully observed and interpreted by the shaman or the elders. The shaman, with his profound spiritual insight, played a crucial role in mediating this dialogue. He would interpret the fire's voice, discerning its subtle messages, guiding the tribe's decisions, whether to move camp, when to hunt, how to appease an angry spirit. His chants and rituals were often performed around the fire, enhancing the sense of its sacred, communicative power. The flickering firelight, casting its dancing shadows on the cave walls, became an integral part of this interpretation. The shadows, themselves believed to be spirits or manifestations of the unseen, would move and writhe in response to the fire's voice, adding a visual dimension to the profound spiritual communication. The fear of misinterpreting the fire's message, or of inadvertently offending its spirit, was profound. Such a transgression could lead to blighted hunts, sickness, or even the ultimate disaster, the fire going out, plunging them into lethal cold and darkness, a cosmic punishment for their failure to listen. They believed the flames listened, that every crackle and hiss was a message from the unseen world beyond the dark. The fire that spoke was a pervasive, fundamental belief of the age of firekeepers, transforming their raw ingenuity into the very means of processing their world, their fears and their hopes. It was a quiet, reverent drift through flickering firelight and echoing caves, charting the ancient art of survival and enduring countless nights under vast, frozen skies, forever tethered to the life-giving warmth of their enduring, communicative flame, a profound secret of how fire shaped their faith and fear. The Night of the Lost Flame. In the age of firekeepers, when fire was life itself, and its enduring glow was the ultimate defiance against the lethal cold, the terror of its absence was profound, existential. The Night of the Lost Flame was a cataclysmic event. One cold dawn, despite all vigilance, the fire died. Panic spread like hunger, a wave of profound, primal dread. A small child, driven by desperation or an ancestral instinct, walked into the snow to find lightning again. A desperate, almost suicidal quest to rekindle the very spark of humanity in a world plunged back into absolute darkness and lethal cold. Imagine the air inside the cave, utterly frigid, thick with the acrid stench of dead embers, mingled with the earthy smell of damp stone, animal hides, and the palpable tang of human panic. The sounds were no longer the simple crackle of a dwindling fire. They included the desperate cries of adults, the whimpering of cold children, and the profound, terrifying silence that snow itself created. Embers, now cold and gray, lay like dead eyes in the ashes, reflecting the profound despair that gripped the tribe. The firekeeper, often an elder, would have stirred before dawn, their bodies stiff with cold, their eyes burning with fatigue. They would have gone to the fire pit, expecting to find the cherished embers, a faint, persistent glow beneath the ash blanket. But this dawn was different. Despite all their meticulous efforts, despite their ceaseless vigil, the fire was utterly dead. Only cold, gray ash remained. Listen to the desperate cries of the firekeeper, a low moan of despair, quickly echoed by the terrified gasps of the awakening tribe. Hear the frantic murmurs of panic, spreading like hunger through the huddled group, their voices low and desperate. See the faces, etched with profound dread, as the full, terrifying reality sank in. No warmth, no cooked food, no protection from the predators whose eyes still gleamed in the absolute blackness outside. Panic spread like hunger. The cold, which had been a constant battle, now became an immediate, lethal threat. Bodies, already weakened by hunger and chronic cold, began to shiver uncontrollably. The children, most vulnerable of all, whimpered with terror, their small forms growing colder, their future dimming with the dying light of hope. The desperate search for a new spark would begin. Flint and pyrite wood drills. These tools would be fumbled with, their cold surfaces resisting the trembling hands. But in the extreme cold, with frozen fingers and the absence of any prepared tinder, striking a new spark was immensely difficult, often futile. Despair, a heavy, suffocating blanket, would settle over the tribe. And then, in a moment of profound desperation or an ancestral calling, a small child would step forward. A boy, perhaps, whose mind was still open to the magic of the world, whose memory of the last lightning strike was vivid. He would walk into the snow, his small, fur-clad figure dissolving into the vast, white expanse, on a desperate quest to find lightning again. A suicidal journey, an impossible dream, a profound act of desperate faith against overwhelming odds. The thought of an innocent child venturing into the lethal cold, seeking a power they could not control, was heartbreaking, yet also a testament to the depths of their desperation. Their fate and the fate of the tribe now hung on this single, fragile, improbable hope. One cold dawn, the fire died. Panic spread like hunger. A small child walked into the snow to find lightning again. The night of the lost flame was the terrifying, profound reality of the winter that nearly erased humanity. A chilling testament to human resilience and the utter desperation of their struggle for survival. It was a quiet, reverent descent into a frozen world, charting the earliest desperate battle for existence, where hope was a flickering ember, and the faint echo of survival was whispered through millennia, forever tethered to the primal terror of a world without fire. This sacred return. In the cataclysmic winter that nearly erased humanity, after the terrifying night of the lost flame had plunged the tribe into absolute despair, their future seemed irrevocably doomed. The cold was lethal, the darkness absolute, and the absence of fire threatened swift extinction. But then, against all odds, through an act of profound courage, desperation, or perhaps divine intervention, fire returned. The sacred return was a moment of unparalleled triumph. When flame returned, it was carried like treasure, wrapped in bark and hair, a holy ember that restored hope, rekindled their spirit, and reaffirmed their profound spiritual connection to this life-giving force. Imagine the air inside the cave, utterly frigid, thick with the acrid stench of dead embers, mingled with the earthy smell of damp stone, animal hides, and the subtle tongue of human relief. The sounds were no longer the desperate cries of despair. They included the hushed murmurs of profound awe, the soft gasp of children, and the triumphant crackle of a tiny nascent flame. Embers glowing like eyes in the ashes, now radiant with renewed life, became the pulsating heart of their world. The small child, or perhaps a brave hunter, who had ventured into the lethal cold in search of fire, would eventually reappear, a solitary figure against the vast, white expanse of the plains. Their body would be numb with cold, their face etched with profound weariness, but in their hands, carefully cupped, nestled in layers of dry bark, moss, and perhaps woven hair, would be the most precious cargo imaginable, a single glowing ember. Listen to the desperate cries of relief, the low murmurs of profound gratitude as the figure approached the mouth of the cave. Hear the soft gasp of children, their eyes wide with wonder, as they glimpsed the tiny incandescent spark. See the ember, wrapped in bark and hair, radiating a faint, defiant glow, a testament to its miraculous survival, a physical manifestation of rekindled hope. When flame returned, it was carried like treasure. The ember, however small, was treated with the utmost reverence, handled with extreme care, as if it were the most precious jewel. It was not merely a burning piece of wood. It was the sacred flame, the very essence of life, rescued from the clutches of oblivion. A holy ember that restored hope. The firekeeper, or the shaman, would carefully receive the ember, bringing it to the stone fire pit. With painstaking care, dry tinder, meticulously gathered in preparation for this desperate moment, would be arranged. With slow, measured breaths, the ember would be nurtured, fed, blown upon, until a tiny tentative flame would lick at the dry tinder, then grow, slowly, hesitantly, into a roaring blaze. The transformation was profound. The cold, which had been a lethal threat, retreated before the radiant heat. The darkness, which had been absolute, was banished by the dancing flames. The despair that had gripped the tribe dissipated, replaced by a surge of profound relief, renewed courage, and an unshakable belief in their capacity to endure. This was more than just starting a fire. It was a profound spiritual experience, a reaffirmation of their connection to the divine. The fire was their new god, and its sacred return reaffirmed its protective power, its life-giving essence, its promise of continued existence. When flame returned, it was carried like treasure, wrapped in bark and hair, a holy ember that restored hope. The sacred return was the terrifying, glorious culmination of the winter that nearly erased humanity, a profound and horrifying testament to the desperate struggle for survival. It was a quiet, reverent descent into a frozen world, charting the earliest, audacious sparks of human ingenuity, where hope burned in the flames, and the faint echo of survival was whispered through millennia, forever tethered to the life-giving warmth of their enduring sacred fire. The first fire gods. In the cataclysmic winter that nearly erased humanity, after fire had been wrestled from the sky, and its sacred return had saved them from oblivion, humanity's relationship with this powerful element transcended the merely practical. Fire was not simply a tool. It was a profound, mysterious force, capable of both immense protection and terrifying destruction. The first fire gods emerged. They began to worship what they could not control, the unpredictable force that could both protect and destroy, shaping their cosmology, dictating their rituals, and forging a profound, enduring spiritual connection to this most vital element. Imagine the air inside the cave, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the earthy scent of damp stone, animal hides, and the subtle tang of human presence, now permeated by a palpable sense of awe and reverence. The sounds were no longer the simple crackle of a mundane fire. They included the rhythmic pop of burning logs, the gentle hiss of sap, and the hushed murmurs of humans offering prayers, their voices low and solemn. Embers glowing like eyes in the ashes seemed to watch, to listen, to embody a powerful, sentient presence. From the earliest moments of fire mastery, its unpredictable nature, its capacity to roar into life or dwindle to nothing, its constant movement, its ability to transform raw materials, impressed itself deeply on the human psyche. It was a power that defied simple explanation, a force that demanded respect, appeasement, and worship. Listen to the low, rhythmic chanting of the shaman, his voice a guttural murmur, invoking the spirit of fire, offering it prayers for its continued warmth, its protective glow. Hear the hushed whispers of the elders, recounting ancient myths of how fire was first given to humanity, often stolen from jealous gods or powerful animal spirits, emphasizing its sacred origins. See the dancing flames, their unpredictable movements throwing exaggerated, shifting forms onto the rough, uneven surfaces of the cave walls, the shadows themselves believed to be manifestations of spirits. They began to worship what they could not control, the unpredictable force that could both protect and destroy. Fire was seen as a living entity, a powerful deity in its own right, or a direct manifestation of a greater cosmic power. It became a central focus of their spiritual life, an object of reverence, a constant source of awe and gratitude. Offerings of precious fat, dried herbs, or carefully selected wood might be cast into the flames, a direct act of appeasement and devotion. The dual nature of fire, its capacity to provide life-saving warmth and light, yet also to consume, to destroy, to burn out, mirrored the capricious nature of the gods and the unpredictability of their world. This duality was central to their understanding of the fire gods, powerful, benevolent protectors, yet capable of terrifying wrath if displeased. The fear of the fire dying, of offending its spirit, was profound. Such a transgression could lead to blighted hunts, sickness, or the ultimate disaster, the fire going out, plunging them into lethal cold and darkness, a cosmic punishment for their failure to respect their powerful deity. These were the first fire gods, born from humanity's desperate need for warmth, and their profound awe of this transformative element. They shaped their cosmology, dictated their rituals, and profoundly influenced their understanding of the unseen world, weaving fear and faith into a complex tapestry of survival. They began to worship what they could not control, the unpredictable force that could both protect and destroy. The first fire gods were a pervasive, fundamental belief of the age of firekeepers, transforming their raw ingenuity into the very means of processing their world, their fears and their hopes. It was a quiet, reverent drift through flickering firelight and echoing caves, charting the ancient art of survival and enduring countless nights under vast, frozen skies, forever tethered to the life-giving warmth of their enduring sacred flame, a profound secret of how fire shaped their faith and fear. The fire dancers. In the bone-chilling depths of the Ice Age, when the formidable power of fire transformed terrifying darkness into a fragile haven, humanity's relationship with this life-giving element deepened into profound spiritual reverence. This awe, mingled with the pervasive fear of the unknown, gave rise to a unique and powerful expression of their faith. The fire dancers. Rituals were born, circles of rhythm, breath, and light that turned fear into art beneath the stars, transforming the cold, brutal reality into a vibrant, communal celebration of survival, a testament to the enduring human spirit. Imagine the air outside the cave, sharp and brutal, yet now permeated by the rhythmic throb of drums, the guttural chants of human voices, and the intense heat of a roaring bonfire. The sounds were no longer the distant howl of the wind. They included the deep, insistent beat of hand drums, the rhythmic stomping of feet, and the soaring, primal voices of chanters. Moonlight over glaciers, now shining down on figures moving in a trance-like dance, illuminated a powerful ancient ritual. When the opportunity arose, perhaps after a successful hunt, or during a particularly long, dark winter night when the cold pressed in with overwhelming force, the tribe would gather outside their cave or in a designated clearing around a massive bonfire. This was not a modest hearth fire, but a roaring, exuberant blaze, its flames leaping high into the vast, open sky, a magnificent display of light and power. Listen to the deep, insistent beat of hand drums, a hypnotic rhythm that resonated through the frozen earth, through the very bodies of the dancers. Hear the guttural, rhythmic chanting of men and women, their voices rising and falling, invoking animal spirits, ancestor spirits, the fire gods themselves, pleading for protection, for warmth, for bounty. See the figures, their bodies painted with ochre and charcoal, their movements fluid, trance-like, dancing in a circle around the blazing fire. Rituals were born, circles of rhythm, breath, and light that turned fear into art beneath the stars. The fire dancers would move with intense concentration, their bodies swaying, their feet stomping the frozen ground, their arms outstretched towards the flames. The light from the bonfire, fierce and untamed, would dance on their faces, on their fur garments, casting immense, shifting shadows that seemed to writhe and come alive, becoming part of the ritual itself. This dance was a profound act of spiritual communion. It was a way to connect with the divine, to express their reverence for fire, to channel their fears and hopes into a collective act of art and devotion. The rhythm of the drums, the repetitive chants, the hypnotic movement of the fire, combined to create an altered state of consciousness, allowing the participants to transcend their physical suffering and connect with the unseen world. The purpose of these rituals was manifold. They sought to appease the fire gods, to ensure its continued warmth and protection. They invoked the spirits of the hunt, blessing future expeditions. They reinforced tribal identity and cohesion, binding the community together in a shared spiritual experience. And crucially, they were a powerful psychological tool, transforming the deep-seated fear of the night and the cold into a vibrant, communal expression of resilience and triumph. Beneath the vast, indifferent sky, under the silent gaze of the moon and stars, the fire dancers created a temporary universe of light, sound, and movement, a defiant assertion of human spirit against the overwhelming forces of nature. Rituals were born, circles of rhythm, breath, and light that turned fear into art beneath the stars. The fire dancers were a pervasive, fundamental ritual of the age of firekeepers, transforming their raw ingenuity into the very means of processing their world, their fears, and their hopes. It was a quiet, reverent drift through flickering firelight and echoing caves, charting the ancient art of survival, and enduring countless nights under vast, frozen skies, forever tethered to the life-giving warmth of their enduring, sacred flame, a profound secret of how fire shaped their faith and fear. The tools of light, sparks from stone. In the cataclysmic winter that nearly erased humanity, when survival hinged on a life-giving glow of fire, dependence on lightning strikes or unpredictable natural blazes was a perilous gamble. Humanity's ultimate triumph over this vulnerability lay in a profound act of ingenuity, the mastery of fire-making itself. Sparks from stone were a fundamental breakthrough. Flint met pyrite, and mankind learned creation. Fire no longer depended on storms. It was now a skill, a craft, a promise, transforming a precarious element into a controlled, replicable source of life, a silent testament to human brilliance. Imagine the air inside the cave, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the earthy scent of damp stone, animal hides, and the subtle tang of human presence. The sounds were no longer the simple crackle of a dwindling fire. They included the sharp, rhythmic click of flint against pyrite, the gentle blowing of breath, and the triumphant crackle of nascent flames. Embers glowing like eyes in the ashes, now born from the deliberate strike of human hands, became the pulsating heart of their world. Before this mastery, fire was a terrifying, awe-inspiring phenomenon, a divine gift violently delivered. Early humans would scavenge embers from lightning-struck trees or natural fires, carefully preserving them, but lacking the ability to create fire at will. This dependence left them vulnerable, constantly threatened by the loss of their precious flame. Listen to the focused, rhythmic click of flint being struck against pyrite, a sharp, metallic sound echoing in the hushed cave, as the firemaker, often an elder or a particularly skilled individual, brought the two stones together with swift, powerful strikes. Here the excited gasps of children as tiny, ephemeral sparks would fly, brief, incandescent stars against the deepening gloom, each one a potential spark of life. Flint met pyrite, and mankind learned creation. The technique involved striking a piece of iron-bearing rock, like pyrite, with a sharp piece of flint. The impact would chip off tiny flakes of pyrite, which, due to the friction, would ignite, producing small, hot sparks. These sparks, meticulously directed, had to land precisely on a prepared bundle of highly combustible, dry, tinder-shredded bark, dried grass, fibrous plant fluff. A small puff of smoke, thin and tentative, would be the first sign of success. A wave of profound relief might ripple through the gathered family. Then, with infinite care, the tinder bundle, now holding a glowing nascent ember, would be gently lifted. The firemaker would bring it to his lips, blowing softly, steadily, with slow, measured breaths, nurturing the tiny spark, feeding it with the very breath of life. Fire no longer depended on storms. It was now a skill, a craft, a promise. This was a monumental leap in human history. The ability to create fire on demand liberated humanity from its complete reliance on natural sources. It meant that even if a fire went out, it could be rekindled. It meant new camps could be established in new, colder territories, expanding humanity's habitable range. The firemaker, the master of this skill, became a revered figure, his art a profound source of security and power. This craftsmanship was passed down through generations, a vital piece of ancestral knowledge, ensuring the tribe's continuous access to warmth, cooking, and protection. Sparks from stone were a pervasive, fundamental tool of survival for the forgotten age, transforming their raw ingenuity into the very means of defying a lethal environment. It was a quiet, reverent drift through flickering firelight and echoing caves, charting the ancient art of survival, and enduring countless nights under vast, frozen skies, forever tethered to the enduring, life-giving flame. A profound secret of how fire became humanity's own creation. Torches in the night. With the mastery of fire-making, humanity gained not only warmth and protection, but also an unprecedented power, the ability to extend light into the deepest, most terrifying darkness. Torches in the night were a profound technological leap. With burning branches, humans walked into the dark for the first time, hunters, wanderers, explorers of the unknown, transforming their relationship with the night from one of passive fear to active engagement, expanding their world beyond the confines of the fire-lit cave. Imagine the air, utterly frigid, sharp, and brutal, yet now mingled with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, burning resin, and the subtle tang of human presence, pushing back the encompassing darkness. The sounds were no longer the desperate cries of humans huddled in fear. They included the rhythmic crackle and hiss of burning branches, the soft pad of cautious footsteps, and the low murmurs of communication. Moonlight over glaciers, now competing with the defiant, flickering glow of human-made light, illuminated a world fundamentally transformed. Before torches, humanity was largely confined to the immediate vicinity of their hearths after sunset. The darkness beyond the fire was a realm of absolute terror, teeming with predators and unseen dangers. Any venture into the night was a perilous gamble, undertaken only out of dire necessity, relying on the pale, unreliable light of the moon or stars. Listen to the rhythmic crackle and hiss of a burning branch, held aloft, its fierce glow casting a circle of dancing light against the profound darkness. Hear the cautious, measured footsteps of hunters, their voices low and sharp, communicating their movements, coordinating their actions in the newly illuminated landscape. See the forms of men, their faces grimly focused, their shadows immense and dancing behind them, venturing into a world that had once been utterly forbidden. With burning branches, humans walked into the dark for the first time. Torches, simply made from resinous wood, bundles of dried reeds dipped in animal fat, or branches wrapped in pitch-soaked hide, provided a portable, controllable source of light. This was a revolutionary technology, opening up the night for new possibilities and profound transformations. Hunters could now extend their forays into the twilight and even the early hours of darkness, tracking game, checking traps, or retrieving kills that might have been left on the plains. This expanded their hunting efficiency, particularly for nocturnal animals, and increased their access to vital food resources. Wanderers and explorers could venture further from their shelters, mapping the terrain, discovering new resources, or scouting for more suitable caves. The torch became a physical extension of their vigilance, pushing back the shadows, revealing hidden paths, deterring opportunistic predators who feared the light. The psychological impact of torches was immense. It empowered humanity, transforming their relationship with the night from one of passive fear to active engagement. The unknown, while still vast, became a little less terrifying, a little more navigable. It fostered a sense of courage, of mastery over their environment, a profound assertion of human will against the pervasive darkness. The light from the torches created dynamic shadows, making the cave walls or the forms of distant trees seem to move, to dance. These were the stories of fire, brought to life in the very act of illumination, guiding their journeys. With burning branches, humans walked into the dark for the first time, hunters, wanderers, explorers of the unknown. Torches in the night were a pervasive, fundamental tool of survival for the forgotten age, transforming their raw ingenuity into the very means of defying a lethal environment. It was a quiet, reverent drift through flickering firelight and echoing caves, charting the ancient art of survival and enduring countless nights under vast, frozen skies, forever tethered to the life-giving light that awakened the human spirit to explore and conquer the profound darkness. The campfire circle, with the mastery of fire-making and the ability to carry its light into the night, humanity's existence transformed from a solitary struggle to a communal celebration. The campfire circle became more than just a place of warmth. It was the very heart of early human society, a dynamic nexus where lives intertwined, knowledge was shared, and the first threads of civilization were woven. Every tribe had a rhythm, fire in the center, stories around it, stars above, an ancient sacred geometry that dictated their social structure, their spiritual life, and their very survival, creating a profound, enduring pulse of collective human warmth. Imagine the air thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the earthy scent of damp stone, animal hides, and the subtle tang of human presence, now permeated by a palpable sense of community and shared purpose. The sounds were no longer the desperate cries of predators. They included the rhythmic crackle and pop of a vigorous fire, the low murmur of human voices, and the gentle breathing of a family gathered close. Embers glowing like eyes in the ashes, contained within their stone ring, illuminated the very birthplace of human culture. The campfire, carefully built within its stone pit, was the undisputed center of human life. It cooked their food, warmed their bodies, illuminated their nights, and protected them from predators. But its true significance lay in its capacity to bring people together, to foster a collective identity. Listen to the low, rhythmic murmur of voices around the campfire, weaving together stories of the day's hunt, of ancestral deeds, of the lessons learned from past winters. Hear the soft gasps of children, their eyes wide and fixed on the dancing shadows, their small imaginations populated by the images conjured by the storyteller. See the faces, etched with both hardship and profound connection, illuminated by the fire's flickering glow, their expressions softened by the shared warmth and companionship. Fire in the center, stories around it, stars above. This was the ancient sacred rhythm of tribal life. The fire, providing light and warmth, created a clear, bright circle of safety, a distinct boundary between the human world and the vast, terrifying darkness of the Ice Age wilderness. Around this circle, the tribe would gather, their bodies pressed close, their minds engaging in the profound act of shared narrative and collective memory. The storytelling, the discussions, the sharing of knowledge around the campfire were vital for social cohesion and cultural transmission. It was where lessons of survival were passed down, where myths were born, where traditions were reinforced, where plans for future hunts and migrations were forged. The fire didn't just warm. It awakened the mind, sparking complex communication and abstract thought. The stars above, vast and indifferent, served as a constant reminder of the immense cosmos, of their small place within it, and of the spiritual forces that governed their world. The campfire, however, was their earthly sun, their personal connection to light and warmth in a universe often defined by cold and darkness. This communal gathering, this profound sense of shared warmth and purpose, was the birthplace of the home, the tribe, the circle. It transformed scattered individuals into a cohesive unit, capable of surviving challenges that would have crushed solitary beings. Civilization, in its earliest, most fundamental form, began here, heartbeat by heartbeat, around the flickering light of the campfire. Every tribe had a rhythm, fire in the center, stories around it, stars above. The campfire's circle was a pervasive, fundamental tool of survival for the forgotten age, transforming their raw ingenuity into the very means of defying a lethal environment. It was a quiet, reverent drift through flickering firelight and echoing caves, charting the ancient art of survival and enduring countless nights under vast, frozen skies, forever tethered to the life-giving warmth of their enduring communal flame, a profound secret of how fire awakened the human spirit. The war between fires, with fire now a sacred, life-giving force, central to human survival in the Ice Age. Its immense power became not just a source of warmth and light, but also a profound object of desire and contention. The war between fires was an inevitable consequence. When tribes met, their flames met too, sometimes shared, sometimes stolen. Fire, once a gift from the sky, became both gift and weapon, a tool for both communal bonding and brutal conflict, intensifying the struggle for survival in a world where warmth meant life and its absence, death. Imagine the air, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the earthy scent of frozen ground, animal hides, and the subtle tang of human presence. now permeated by the underlying tension of intertribal conflict. The sounds were no longer just the crackle of a single campfire. They included the distant shouts of rival groups, the rhythmic beat of war drums, and the desperate cries of a camp under attack. Moonlight over glaciers, now shining down on two distant, flickering points of light, illuminated a stark, ancient rivalry. Before the mastery of fire-making, tribes might coexist, their interactions limited by the pervasive darkness. But with fire, they gained a powerful advantage, a visible beacon in the night. This beacon, however, also drew attention, and with it, rivalry. Listen to the distant, ominous shouts of a rival tribe, their voices echoing across the frozen plains, a chilling declaration of intent. Hear the frantic whispers within your own camp, the urgent commands of the chieftain, the quiet readying of spears and clubs. See the two distant flickering points of light, each a campfire, each a symbol of a tribe's presence, now potentially clashing in a deadly dance of light and shadow. When tribes met, their flames met too, sometimes shared, sometimes stolen. A peaceful encounter might lead to a sharing of warmth, of knowledge, of resources, a temporary alliance forged around a communal blaze. This was the ideal, the rare moment of intertribal camaraderie. More often, however, the encounter was hostile. Fire became both gift and weapon. A weaker tribe's fire, its glow visible across the plains, became a target. A raiding party, moving stealthily under the cover of darkness, would attempt to extinguish the enemy's fire, plunging them into lethal cold and chaos, then stealing their precious embers or scattering their fuel, leaving them utterly vulnerable. The theft of fire, or the destruction of an enemy's flame, was a profound act of war, a deliberate attempt to cripple a rival's ability to survive. It was a strategy born of desperation, and the grim understanding that in this frozen world, fire was the ultimate arbiter of life and death. To control fire was to control destiny. Conversely, a tribe with powerful fires could use them as a defensive tool, creating formidable rings of light that deterred human and animal predators alike. They could demonstrate their strength, their mastery over the element, implicitly warning off potential aggressors. The psychological impact of the war between fires was immense. It instilled a constant, pervasive fear of tribal conflict, a desperate need to protect one's own flame at all costs. It reinforced the identity of the tribe as a collective unit, its survival inextricably linked to the survival of its central fire. When tribes met, their flames met too, sometimes shared, sometimes stolen. The war between fires was a pervasive, fundamental aspect of the Forgotten Age, transforming their raw ingenuity into the very means of survival and profound conflict. It was a quiet, reverent drift through flickering firelight and echoing caves, charting the ancient art of survival, and enduring countless nights under vast, frozen skies, forever tethered to the life-giving warmth of their enduring flame. A profound secret of how fire shaped their earliest social dynamics, both for bonding and for brutal existential warfare. The first metals glow. In the profound darkness and bone-chilling cold of the Ice Age, after humanity had mastered the art of fire, wresting its precious flame from stone and wood, a new, unforeseen revolution began to stir within the glowing embers. The first metal as glow was a profound testament to fire as transformative power. From flame came more wonders: copper, gold, and iron. The world began to bend beneath the power of heat, marking a pivotal leap in human technology, expanding humanity's dominion over its environment, and ushering in new eras of tools, weapons, and unparalleled craftsmanship. Imagine the air inside the cave, thick with the pungent aroma of wood smoke, mingled with the earthy scent of damp stone and the subtle, exciting tang of smelting ore. The sounds were no longer just the crackle of fire or the rhythmic scrape of flint. They included the low roar of a carefully managed furnace, the rhythmic clang of a hammer against heated metal, and the hushed murmurs of awe as humans witnessed a profound alchemy. embers glowing like eyes in the ashes, now illuminating the magical transformation of dull rock into shimmering, malleable metal. Initially, early humans used native metals like gold and copper in their natural unsmelted forms, shaping them through cold hammering. But with the mastery of fire, particularly controlled intense heat, they discovered a miraculous new process: metallurgy. By placing certain rocks, ores, into a sufficiently hot fire pit, they found that metal could be extracted, melted, and cast into new, far more versatile forms. Listen to the low roar of a carefully managed furnace, its flames reaching intense temperatures, far beyond that of a simple campfire. Hear the rhythmic clang of a stone hammer against a heated piece of copper, shaping it, bending it, transforming its properties. See the shimmering, molten metal, glowing with an otherworldly light, being poured into simple clay molds, creating new tools, new weapons, new ornaments. Copper, one of the first metals to be deliberately smelted, allowed for the creation of more durable tools, sharper weapons, and finer ornaments than stone or bone. Its malleability meant it could be repeatedly reshaped, repaired, and refined. Gold, gleaming and beautiful, became a symbol of status, power, and divine connection. Later, with even higher temperatures, they mastered iron. Iron tools and weapons were far superior to bronze, more abundant, more durable, and capable of holding a sharper edge. This was the true dawn of the Iron Age, a technological revolution that fundamentally reshaped human society, agriculture, and warfare. The world began to bend beneath the power of heat. This mastery of metallurgy was a profound leap in human ingenuity. It allowed for the creation of more efficient tools, leading to increased agricultural productivity. It led to more effective weapons, transforming warfare and hunting. It fostered trade, as precious metals became commodities to be sought, processed, and exchanged. The fire maker, the smith, became a revered figure, his art a profound source of security and power. This craftsmanship was passed down through generations, a vital piece of ancestral knowledge, ensuring the tribe's continuous advancement. From flame came more wonders: copper, gold, and iron. The first metal's glow was a pervasive, fundamental aspect of the Forgotten Age, transforming their raw ingenuity into the very means of defying a lethal environment. It was a quiet, reverent drift through flickering firelight and echoing caves, charting the ancient art of survival, and enduring countless nights under vast, frozen skies, forever tethered to the life-giving warmth of their enduring flame. A profound secret of how fire unleashed humanity's mastery over matter and ignited the dawn of civilization. From flame came more wonders: copper, gold, and iron. The eternal spark, fire in the heart of cities. Long after the Ice Age receded, long after humans left the sheltering caves for open plains and fertile river valleys, the fundamental truth of their survival endured. Fire in the heart of cities remained. Long after the caves, fire still ruled. From hearths to lamps, from forges to altars, always in the center of human life, an eternal spark that continued to shape their homes, their industries, their worship, and their very social fabric, echoing the ancient origins of human warmth. Imagine the air, thick with the mingled scents of countless cooking fires, bustling marketplaces, pungent workshops, and fragrant incense, now infused with the pervasive aroma of human ingenuity. The sounds are no longer the distant howl of a wolf. They include the rhythmic clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the murmur of thousands of voices, the crackle of hearths in countless homes, and the solemn chanting of priests in towering temples. Sunlight glinting off polished stone, now competing with the constant flickering glow of human-made light, illuminates a world utterly reliant on controlled flame. As humanity transitioned from nomadic hunter-gatherer bands to settled agricultural communities and, eventually, to the first complex city-states, fire did not diminish in importance. Instead, Its role evolved, becoming even more central and specialized, shaping the very architecture and function of urban life. Listen to the rhythmic crackle and pop of 1,000 hearths, each one the beating heart of a family home, warming mud brick walls, cooking daily meals, and providing light for evening tasks. Hear the soft murmur of conversations, the quiet lullabies, the shared stories, all unfolding around the comforting glow of the domestic fire, much as they had in the ancient caves, from hearths to lamps. Beyond the domestic hearth, fire illuminated the burgeoning cities. Oil lamps, carefully crafted from clay or bronze, burned with precious oil, pushing back the urban darkness, allowing for nighttime activities, for reading, for crafting, for continued social interaction long after the sun had set. The flickering light of these lamps, casting dancing shadows on city walls, became a defining feature of ancient urban life. From forges to altars, fire was essential for industry. The blacksmith's forge, roaring with intense heat, transformed raw metals into essential tools, weapons, and ornaments, shaping the very technology of civilization. The potter's kiln, stoked to immense temperatures, baked clay into durable pottery and sun-dried bricks into robust building materials. These were the fiery engines of urban production. And crucially, fire remained at the heart of worship. Altars in magnificent temples burned with perpetual flames, consuming sacrificial offerings, sending columns of fragrant incense spiraling towards the heavens. These sacred fires were believed to connect humanity to the divine, a direct link to the gods, much as the first fires were worshipped as powerful deities. Always in the center of human life, the very planning of cities revolved around fire. The careful placement of hearths, the management of smoke, the prevention of uncontrolled blazes in densely packed urban environments. It shaped their architecture, their economy, their social structures, and their spiritual beliefs. Long after the caves, fire still ruled, from hearths to lamps, from forges to altars, always in the center of human life. Fire in the heart of cities was a pervasive, fundamental reality of the forgotten age, transforming their raw ingenuity into the very means of building civilization. It was a quiet, reverent drift through flickering firelight and echoing caves, charting the ancient art of survival, and enduring countless nights under vast, frozen skies, forever tethered to the eternal, life-giving spark, the profound secret of how fire ignited humanity's ascent. When fire built empires, the raw, life-giving power of fire, once a fragile spark guarded in a freezing cave, had not only ensured humanity's survival through cataclysmic winters, but also propelled it towards unprecedented levels of social complexity. When fire built empires, it was a profound testament to its transformative force. Kilns, smelters, and weapons of heat, the same element that once scared the wild, now forged kingdoms from stone and steel, reshaping the landscape of human power, warfare, and civilization itself, demonstrating fire's pivotal role in the rise of monumental human achievement. Imagine the air, thick with the acrid stench of smelting ore, the pungent aroma of wood smoke from vast kilns, and the metallic tang of newly forged bronze and iron. The sounds are no longer the simple crackle of a cave fire. They include the thunderous roar of colossal furnaces, the rhythmic clang of hammers on heated metal, the shouts of hundreds of laborers, and the disciplined tramp of armies equipped with metal weapons. Moonlight over vast, new cities, their walls and palaces, built from fired bricks and gleaming with bronze, illuminates a world utterly transformed by the power of heat. As early human communities grew into complex city-states and then vast empires, the mastery of fire became central to their expansion and dominion. Its application moved beyond mere cooking and warmth to become a fundamental engine of industrial and military power. Listen to the deep, resonant roar of colossal furnaces, stoked with immense quantities of charcoal, reaching temperatures capable of melting rock and metal. Hear the rhythmic clang of blacksmiths' hammers, shaping hot bronze and iron into formidable weapons, swords, spearheads, armor that gave their armies a decisive edge over foes still reliant on stone. See the shimmering, molten metal glowing with an otherworldly light being cast into molds, creating new tools, new instruments of power, kilns, smelters, and weapons of heat. The development of advanced metallurgy, driven by intense, controlled fire, was a revolutionary leap. Smelting copper, tin, and later iron from their ores required sophisticated understanding and application of heat. This yielded stronger, more durable tools for agriculture, allowing for greater food production and supporting larger populations. It also produced superior weapons, fundamentally transforming warfare and enabling the rise of powerful, centralized empires capable of conquering vast territories. Fire was also essential for monumental architecture. The sun-baked mud bricks of earlier settlements were vulnerable to erosion. But with fire, they could be baked in immense kilns, producing durable, weather-resistant fired bricks that allowed for the construction of colossal city walls, towering ziggurats, and grand palaces, structures that stood for millennia, defining the urban landscape of empires. The very same force that once scared the wild now forged kingdoms from stone and steel. Fire, once a defensive tool against individual predators, became an offensive weapon, empowering armies and solidifying royal power. It shaped not just the materials of empire, but its very social structure, creating specialized classes of smiths, engineers, and metallurgists central to imperial might. This profound command over heat allowed civilizations to build, to conquer, to create on an unprecedented scale, transforming the raw elements of the earth into the foundations of power and glory. Kilns, smelters, and weapons of heat, the same force that once scared the wild now forged kingdoms from stone and steel. When fire built empires, it was the terrifying, glorious culmination of humanity's journey, a profound and horrifying testament to the desperate struggle for survival. It was a calm, elemental descent into a frozen world, charting the earliest desperate battle for existence, where ingenuity became power and the faint echo of survival was whispered through millennia. Forever tethered to the life-giving warmth of their enduring, transformative flame, a profound secret of how fire ignited civilization and built empires. The flame that burned too bright. The story of fire, from its miraculous discovery to its pivotal role in forging empires, is inextricably linked to humanity's ascent. Yet, with immense power always comes immense danger, and for every triumph, there was a corresponding cost. The flame that burned too bright was a profound, timeless lesson. Every age learns the cost of power. Fire, the very force that had saved humanity, destroyed as much as it created, constantly reminding humanity that warmth and ruin share the same root, a chilling inherent duality etched into the very core of civilization's memory. Imagine the air, thick with the acrid stench of a burning city, the suffocating smoke of collapsing structures, and the metallic tang of melting metal. The sounds are no longer the rhythmic clang of smiths. They include the terrifying roar of an uncontrolled inferno, the desperate shouts and screams of terrified citizens, and the crackle and collapse of once magnificent buildings consumed by fire. Moonlight over vast smoking ruins illuminates a world where creation has turned to destruction. From the earliest controlled fires within caves, the danger was ever present. A careless ember could ignite dry hides, spreading quickly, engulfing the fragile shelter in moments, leaving the tribe exposed to the lethal cold and predators. The firekeeper's constant vigilance was not just about maintaining warmth, but about preventing cataclysm. Listen to the terrifying roar of an urban conflagration, its flames leaping high into the night sky, casting immense dancing shadows that transform a familiar city into a hellish landscape. Hear the desperate cries of families, attempting to salvage what little they possessed, or fleeing in panic through the smoke-choked streets. See the towering columns of smoke, black against the stormy sky, illuminated by the orange glow of the unstoppable fire, a terrifying beacon of raw, destructive power. Every age learns the cost of power. As humanity built cities of mud brick and timber, fire became an even greater threat. Densely packed dwellings, often without proper fire breaks, were fire traps. Great cities Babylon, Rome, medieval London suffered devastating conflagrations that erased vast swaths of their urban fabric, destroying homes, markets, and sacred sites. These were not just accidents. They were moments of profound societal trauma, revealing the inherent vulnerability of their achievements. Fire destroyed as much as it created. The very force that allowed them to smelt metals, to bake bricks, to forge weapons, could also turn against them. A blacksmith's forge, poorly managed, could ignite a workshop. A kiln, overheating, could raise a pottery quarter. The technology that brought progress also carried the constant potential for catastrophic destruction, a powerful inherent duality that humanity had to constantly manage. The memory of these devastating fires, whether natural or accidental, became deeply ingrained. It shaped architectural practices, leading to the development of fire codes, wider streets, and the use of more fire-resistant materials. It informed their spiritual beliefs, with fire sometimes seen as a force of divine judgment, a cleansing agent, or a symbol of destruction. Warmth and ruin shared the same root. The flame that burned too bright was a profound, timeless lesson. Every age learns the cost of power. Fire destroyed as much as it created, constantly reminding humanity that warmth and ruin share the same root. It was a calm, elemental descent into a frozen world, charting the earliest, desperate struggle for existence, where ingenuity became power, and the faint echo of survival was whispered through millennia, forever tethered to the transformative, yet terrifying, duality of their most precious element, a profound secret of how civilization wrestled with its own dangerous creation. The memory of the hearth, the immense transformative power of fire, which had guided humanity from the depths of the Ice Age to the heights of empire, left an indelible mark, not just on the physical world, but on the human soul. Even in the ages of electric lights and central heating, long after the need for its primal warmth had diminished, the memory of the hearth persisted. Generations later, even in electric nights, we still gather around small circles of light, candles, screens, or campfires, echoes of the first warmth, a profound, enduring testament to fire's foundational role in shaping human connection, comfort, and the very concept of home. Imagine the air, crisp and clean, thick with the subtle scent of old wood smoke, damp earth, and a pervasive aroma of memory, mingling with the low hum of ancestral stories. The sounds are no longer the rhythmic crackle of a primitive fire. They include the soft flicker of a candle, the hushed murmur of conversation around a glowing screen, and the comforting crackle of a modern fireplace. Moonlight over glaciers, now a distant memory, illuminates the enduring symbols of human warmth. The hearth, the stone circle where fire was nurtured, was the very first center of human life. It was where families gathered, cooked, ate, told stories, crafted tools, and slept. It was the physical and emotional heart of their existence, the nucleus of the home, the tribe, the community. All warmth, all light, all sustenance flowed from its life-giving glow. Listen to the distant, rhythmic crackle of a campfire, its flames dancing against the modern night sky, drawing people close, as it has for millennia. Hear the low murmur of conversation, the shared laughter, the quiet contemplation that unfolds around its hypnotic glow. See the small, intimate circles of light, a candle on a table, the glowing screen of a device, each one an echo of that primordial hearth, a subconscious yearning for the safety and connection it once represented. Even in electric nights, we still gather around small circles of light, candles, screens, or campfires, echoes of the first warmth, the power of fire to bring people together, to foster connection, to facilitate storytelling, is so deeply ingrained in the human psyche that it transcends technology. The campfire remains a potent symbol of camaraderie and shared experience. The candle, flickering on a dinner table, evokes a sense of intimacy and reverence. Even the glowing screen of a television or a phone, for all its modern complexity, acts as a contemporary hearth, drawing people together, providing light and shared narrative. The memory of the hearth is a profound cultural legacy. It shaped our concepts of home, of family, of community. The feelings of safety, comfort, and belonging that we associate with warmth and light are directly rooted in those ancient, primal experiences around the first fires. The aroma of wood smoke, even today, can evoke a powerful subconscious sense of security and nostalgia. It reminds us of our vulnerability, too. The fear of cold, of darkness, of isolation remains deeply embedded, even in our technologically advanced world. The memory of the hearth is a constant reminder of how far we have come, and the fundamental elements upon which our progress was built. Even in electric nights, we still gather around small circles of light, candles, screens, or campfires, echoes of the first warmth. The memory of the hearth is a pervasive, fundamental aspect of the forgotten age, transforming their raw ingenuity into an enduring legacy that defines our modern comfort. It is a calm, elemental descent into a frozen world, charting the earliest desperate struggle for existence, where warmth became memory, and the faint echo of survival was whispered through millennia, forever tethered to the enduring, life-giving glow of humanity's first friend. To come together in the face of overwhelming adversity, these are lessons deeply ingrained from that forgotten age. The flame lives in every spark of invention, every story told in the dark, proof that humanity's first friend never died. The fire that still burns is the ultimate testament to humanity's triumph, a living legacy that defines the very essence of our species. It is a calm, elemental descent into a frozen world, charting the ancient art of survival and enduring countless nights under vast, frozen skies. It is the memory of endurance, a constant reminder that the strength found in quiet perseverance, in ingenuity, and in the bonds of shared humanity is the true secret of our survival, the warmth that allowed us to defy the winter that nearly erased us, and from which the entirety of civilization blossomed, an eternal, inextinguishable spark. Thanks for staying with this quiet journey into the forgotten age when fire meant survival. If you made it all the way through the long night of early humanity, you now understand something that most people never stop to imagine. Just how thin the line was between life and the darkness that wanted to swallow it whole. Before cities, before stories, before tools or gods, there was only cold. A cold so deep it silenced forests, numbed bone, and watched humanity with patient, unblinking eyes. And then came fire, a trembling spark stolen from a storm, a fragile ember carried in dried bark, a circle of warmth that told the night it could no longer have everything. Those early humans weren't stronger than we are. They weren't braver either. They were simply afraid and determined and alive. And they guarded their fire the way we now guard our memories, our families, our dreams. Every flame they kept alive was a promise that the cold would not win. Not tonight. Not yet. Fire became their companion, their shield, their first teacher. Around it, they learned to share food, to speak, to imagine, to hope. And in that soft orange glow, the first human thoughts were born. If this story has given you a new way to see our distant ancestors, as tired souls huddled together in the dark, clinging to warmth with the same fragile hope we carry today, then their ancient spark has reached you across time. So rest now, close your eyes and breathe like they once breathed, in cold air softened by a loyal flicker of light. Somewhere deep in our memory, the fire is still burning. Steady, gentle, patient. It has never left us. sleep well. The night is calm. The embers are safe, and the flame, as always, keeps watch.